brought up with this paradigm that if we want people to change their behavior, we should instill fear into them. And if they're scared of something, that will drive them to change their behavior. And I mean, this is also true when we're talking about leadership programs. Why would we want to change your style of leadership? Do we want to change it because it's going to go bad with you if you don't? Do we want to instill the courage in you to be able to embrace a different way in order to create something better than you already have?
Hey folks, welcome back to the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast 2026 version. Today, I'm joined by Markus van Alphen. He's a leadership psychologist, author, and creator of the observational listening method. It's a practical way to connect emotion and communication so that leaders can influence with more humanity. He's written books including The Excellent Leader, and he works as a trainer, organizational consultant, counselor, and practitioner. Markus, welcome back to the show and happy 2026.
Thank you. And nice being back. Like you said earlier, it's been almost a year since we've spoken last.
Yes. And you're still in Amsterdam, right? Or in the Netherlands?
Well, officially based in Amsterdam, but I am sitting in good old Spain right now.
Okay, Spain.
Yeah, I'm a digital nomad, so I can actually sit and work anywhere in the world where they have a good internet connection.
Yes, I think Spain qualifies for that. Okay, well, hopefully you're enjoying your time there and soaking up some of the scenery over there.
Yeah, not yet the weather because it's still winter, yeah, so it's quite cold.
Look, it's the winter solstice is done, so it's only getting brighter earlier moving forward until we hit the summer. So brighter days ahead, my friend. Look, last time you were on, we talked a lot about emotional intelligence. We talked a lot about, as a leader, the importance of observational listening, to listen first, to not be judgmental, and to use that as a way of leading your teams better. I think there's something else on your mind for recently, and let's talk about it.
Well, it's not so much different. It's all in the same line.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically, as you know, my whole mission is I want people to be happier. I want people to enjoy more well-being in their lives. And seeing as our working lives are such a large proportion of that, of our normal lives, I mean, generally, most people spend more time with their colleagues and at work than they spend with their families. Yeah. So for me, that's been my focus, is how do we increase the well-being of people? And I believe one of the key ways to do that is via leadership. So good leadership, if you have a good leader, and this is where that empathy aspect comes in, somebody who's empathic is better able to listen to what you're saying, better able to hear the underlying meanings of what you're saying, and is better able to align with who you are. And I believe that helps in creating an environment where people experience more well-being, and that is good for the bottom line. And I think I've mentioned this before, that there is also research that shows companies who have empathy as their baseline or their basic strategy generally do something like 3% per year better on the bottom line per year, compounded redundant.
Okay. So there's a lot of empirical evidence of what you just said, right? But I think the subject you wanted to bring up was the role of anxiety and fear in trying to drive performance.
Sure, because basically this is one of the paradigms that we've almost been, shall I say, brought up. I don't mean by our parents, but I mean by society. We've been brought up with this paradigm that if we want people to change their behavior, we should instill fear into them. And if they're scared of something, that will drive them to change their behavior. And I mean, this is also true when we're talking about leadership programs. Why would we want to change your style of leadership? Do we want to change it because it's going to go bad with you if you don't? Or, and this is the opposite way of looking at it, do we want to instill the courage in you to be able to embrace a different way in order to create something better than you already have.
Mm-hmm.
That second one, you might have noticed the word anxiety is missing.
Yeah. Courage.
This whole idea of using anxiety to stimulate people to do what you want them to do, let's face it, we also have empirical research to show that doesn't work. So simple example, capital punishment. Why would we have capital punishment? Well, to stop people committing very serious, heinous crimes. Correct? Well, the question is, does it work? So what did they do? In a couple of states in America, they actually said, okay, we're going to stop with capital punishment. And they followed the serious crime rates for many years. I can't remember exactly how many. Maybe it was 10, maybe it was 15. And what did they discover at the end of those 15 years? I don't know. Do you want to make
You're keeping me in suspense. What
happened?
What happened?
What happened is there was no change whatsoever.
No change in what? The rate of crime?
In the number, in the prevalence of a serious crime. So serious crime rates stayed identical. They didn't go up, they didn't go down. This is the removal of capital punishment. In a couple of other states in America, they did the opposite. They reinstated capital punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And they also followed there. What happened to the crime rates? Do you want to guess?
Oh, I'm guessing it's negligible change.
No change.
Well, and let's define what a crime rate is, right? It's probably there's serious crimes and then there's petty crimes.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm talking about serious crimes in this case.
Yeah, like homicide and
exactly.
such, right? Okay. So I don't know the numbers, but let's go with that. The crime rates of major crimes don't change when you instill very harsh capital punishment.
Exactly. Nor do they change even when you remove them.
Yep. When you put it in or you take it out. How do you explain? Some people might bring up the example of Singapore, right? Where there is forms of capital punishment, I guess, like,
if you spit your gum on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Dot. Yes.
Yeah. And, some might say it is probably one of the most compliant and safe places in the world.
Might be.
Mind you, it's a dot, it's a little dot on the map too. It's not a country the size of the United States, right?
No, but I think the research that was done, I forget exactly when it was done. It was a professor of the Erasmus University in Rotterdam. John Blood is his name, B-L-A-D, because he was interested in actually his research question was, what conditions must be present before punishment actually works? And and I don't know them all off the top of my head, but he came up with 6 criteria that need to be present. And the first one is that everybody should know what the punishment is for something. So I'm guessing in Singapore, everybody knows if I spit my gum on the pavement, I'm going to get smacked. Okay, so knowledge. The second thing is that your chance of being caught must be near 100%. If your chance to get caught is near 100%, it's not going to work. Plus, the punishment must come relatively soon after the crime.
Okay.
So there are a couple of other ones. One is that people are rational in the way that they consider a situation and consider their actions. Well, I don't need to tell you that the higher the emotion is, less the rational mind actually plays a role.
Yeah.
So I think if you're about to murder somebody, their emotions are probably a little higher, I'm guessing. But you're probably not thinking so clearly at that moment in a rational sense of the word. So, he comes up with all of these criteria and subsequently makes a list of crimes. And he lists them from very petty to very severe. And he notes which of those 6 criteria are present And his conclusion was, and this was in the Netherlands, he says the only punishments that really work are parking fines and speeding fines if the actual fine lands in your postbox within 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's it. Then they're effective. And for the rest, they're actually not effective in changing behavior.
Yeah. So it sounds like what he's saying is that, first of all, knowledge. I think everyone has that knowledge. Let's assume that. But if there's even a chance that you'll get away with it,
exactly.
Or okay. So I guess, like, how is there a relation to this? Now we went on a far tangent here talking about capital punishment. Let's go back to the role of fear and leadership.
Exactly.
How might this be related?
Let's have a look. If we take something nice and simple that a lot of people do, we manage by KPIs.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. What happens if you don't meet your KPI?
Yeah. Best case, you don't get a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get, certain incentives. Worst case, you're fired.
Worst case, you're fired, or you get a reduction in salary or whatever. Okay, now is that now reward or is that punishment?
It's all punishment. You put it that way.
You lose your job. Losing your job is punishment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're being threatened. If you don't perform, you may lose your job.
Mm-hmm.
What does this teach you to do?
Yeah.
Teaches you to meet your KPIs either by legitimate means, or if that's not possible.
Yeah. So what I observed is that, KPIs, they have the best of intentions. Like the simplest one for every company out there is revenue targets. That is probably this.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, if you're not making money, and if you're not profitable and you don't have good margins, you'll go out of business, right? You will go out of business.
A company, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So a typical, like if you're in sales, more sales adjacent, you are going to be measured on revenue production. Now, how you want to drive towards that. So what I find is that everyone's measured with the same KPI. Some people the how is very different and very diverse, right? Even within a single organization. Like the last organization I was part of was like 70,000 people. You will get very diverse ways of achieving it. Some ways I've seen is they'll hit it and you're in a pleasant, as pleasant as can be in a high pressure environment. Mm-hmm. And I've seen the other extreme where blame culture.
Exactly.
Yeah, blame it on someone else. It's someone else's fault.
Okay, and that blame, just the blame aspect, if you just think about that, this is actually biological. Because look, let's say to you, I'm somebody, I'm working your sand company as you, and I say, hey David, I've got some feedback for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think happens in your brain?
Shit, I did something wrong.
Get it?
If I'm not mature about it, it's like, oh crap, I did something wrong.
Well, even if you are mature about it, your brain reacts without you even thinking yet. You need to step over that reaction in order to be able to hear what I'm going to tell you next. Mm-hmm. Because your body's direct reaction comes in 1/10 of a second, long before you've thought about, maybe I should listen.
Yeah. That's a conditioning, though. Right, Marcus?
But your body just says there's danger.
Yeah. But that's conditioning as well, right?
Well, no, that part is actually so ingrained in our nature because that's how we survive. We need to be aware as soon as there's an assault that is going to threaten our safety, we need to go into action very quickly in order to face that challenge. Mm-hmm. This is where the fight, flight, freeze thing comes in. Either you've got to get ready to fight, or you've got to run like hell, or you freeze. One of the three.
Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying? So when I've come to you and I've said, hey, David, I have some feedback for you, your brain says, oh, here comes a threat.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's a possible threat.
So your body automatically, it goes into defense mode.
Yeah. Yep. And if I was to be honest, if I was to be honest with you, what goes through my mind immediately is, okay, at best, Marcus is going to sugarcoat it at first and ease it over. And here's the things I did well. And then he's going to drop some hammer on me and saying, okay, well, this is where you effed up. But I've, and
then I'm going
my
to
conditioning
by giving you a nice little.
Yeah. Well, my conditioning over the years, honestly, Marcus, has been, I probably keep the best. I've been told I keep a good poker face, especially when people say, I have feedback for you. I go into immediate poker face. And the funniest feedback I got was,
that's conditioning.
That's conditioning. I'll tell you the funniest story was that one time I was in a surprise meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So my boss is, okay, we're going to meet here. Then I was surprised by my boss's boss, the executive vice president, and we're meeting and we were all in a room. And I'm like, oh, this is bad. And they're like, David, we have feedback for you. So I went into stoic mode right away. And they go, I have some feedback for you. Congratulations on your promotion. So they're punking me. And then they started laughing and I just stayed stone-faced. I'm like, okay.
Until you realized what they.
Yeah, no, I realized what they said, but I'm like, okay, and what else? And they started laughing, and I didn't laugh. I'm like, okay, and what else? They're like, Dave, we just gave you a promotion. We're messing with you, right? And so that's probably my funniest feedback story.
That's hilarious because you're actually explaining that the way a lot of people have been taught to give feedback is indeed start with something nice. We call it the sandwich technique. And then comes the filling. And when we're done, we give a nice little, but you're okay kind of thing.
Can you imagine that? Congratulations, you've been promoted. And tomorrow's your last day on the job. Thank you.
Tomorrow you're fired. but so I actually understand your reaction because this is how a lot of people have been trained to give feedback, is this idea of first say something positive, then hit them with a message, and then come with something nice again. So it, all in all, it's been a nice little sandwich.
Yeah. Yep.
It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work because the compliment you get up front, you already know this isn't really a compliment. This is just a line to introduce the blow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't take the compliment seriously.
Yeah.
In fact, you're thinking, what's about to hit me now? Bring it on.
Yeah. And the interesting thing there is that's why the how is so important. How you deliver it. You can't, like, if you're the one delivering the feedback, you cannot control the other person's emotions.
Of course.
But you have a choice to deliver it based on, a perceived attack on the individual or on a specific objective thing that was done, like an action.
Sure.
Which is very different, right? It's like, hey, Marcus,
it's very different.
This was said versus like, Marcus, you said this.
Yeah, then I'm straight in the defensive. Yes, but they said that first.
Yeah. It's like, oh, no, the way that this was said was this, and what was heard was that. You're kind of objectifying.
Well, yeah, I'm a big fan of what we call Feedforward.
Mm-hmm.
So Feedforward basically says, let's forget about all the SH1T that goes up front. Let's get straight to the point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's say, hey, David, that meeting we had yesterday with that client ABC, you know what I'd rather have you did in such a situation? Do that and that and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying, hey, you did something wrong. I'm not saying slap, slap, slap. I'm not sugarcoating it, anything. I'm just saying, hey, this is what I'd prefer to see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
full stop.
It feels good, honestly. I was giving feedback like that just a month ago about a workshop I ran, and I actually called up someone who I knew who was on it, and they're very straightforward. I appreciate the straightforwardness. Like, hey, the way you started out with this, how you told that story, what I didn't feel from it was this, right? And what I would like to see more of is this. But it was about the story that I told versus like, David, this is what you did. It's like, no. the story that was told. That's how it was worded, and it felt very different.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many better ways of delivering the feedback, if you ask me, than the standard way that we've been taught.
Yeah.
I believe one of the ways, and I try and teach leaders this way, is to give feedback by asking questions. Hey, David, I see that meeting we had with the client X last week. Just walk me through it. How did you do that and that and that? I'm not telling you did something wrong. I'm asking you, walk me through it, because I'm trying to understand what was your thinking going through that.
Mhm.
That gives a totally different feel than saying, hey, David, the way you approach that client, really, we can't do that.
Yeah. And it's also context too. You'll get the context into the behavior that you observed. So I guess bringing this back up to something, flipping this now. So, there is, we can't deny there is fear, anxiety, driving motivators or motivation techniques that are happening. I guess when you think about how people need to, if they're willing to change that behavior, what would you suggest to begin that change?
Well, let's face it, which changes are the easiest to implement are the changes where people make that decision for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, it's not driven by any rationale whatsoever. It's just driven by somebody thinks, hey, this is a good idea. I'd like to change. These are the changes that work the best.
Mm.
And if we use that principle, then basically it's about how do we create the conditions that people can do this. And now we come back to a whole plethora of subjects that we've also discussed on the previous time. Psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no psychological safety, what's going to happen? Because then we're literally on that fear-based paradigm. If there's no psychological safety, you don't feel safe. That's anxiety-based. You're not going to open your mouth unless you have to.
Yeah, you won't get the best out of people. That's for sure. Yeah, you'll get the best out of some people, but you won't get the best out of a lot of people. Very few. Yeah. Very few. There are some people. No, there are some people that respond to it, and I have observed it as well. Some people do respond to a fear-based, and once they get validated,
they do. Especially, this might sound funny to say this, but especially people with a low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
they respond a lot easier to punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has a far more direct effect on their sense of well-being. If they're able to defend themselves in an attack, I'm just putting it in maybe bad words, but that gives them some sense of competency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. One of the dynamics we talk about when people have not a terribly low self-esteem, but a lower self-esteem, is that they feel they should always win any conversation. So if you bring up a suggestion, they will challenge your suggestion and prove you wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as they win, they're okay. Okay, so with them, the fear tactic is more likely to work than with somebody who is not that way inclined. In other words, with them, you can still say, okay, if we do your thing, it's your responsibility. Hey, now they start thinking, oh, shit, my responsibility, it better work. Maybe I should also listen to what this person's telling me. You get what I'm saying?
I totally get it.
Whereas somebody who is more okay with themselves as they are, with them, the punishment, they just sort of think, well, I can always get another job.
Yeah. It's never as bad as you think it is.
No.
It's never as good as you think it is either. So, yeah. Well, Markus, I do have one or two more questions for you. So one more.
I love questions.
I know you love questions. So one of them is, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm actually just looking forward to, and I've said this previously to somebody else as well. I believe the place where we can change the world to be quite honest, is the mid-sized organizations. I don't believe there's much change to be expected from large organizations. They're too set in their ways. The mid-sized organizations, and this is my opinion, I don't have data to back this up, but I have the idea they're more open to taking courageous steps to doing things differently. And I believe, and this I think you can subscribe to as well. If we continue to do things the same way as what we're doing them, what's going to change?
Yeah.
Are we going to get different results by doing the same stuff? I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, certainly the mid-sized and small businesses I don't think there's a non-willingness in large enterprise organizations. It's harder to steer. Like the metaphor is, it's an aircraft carrier. If you want to turn right, you have to be miles and miles. Yeah. And not everyone wants to turn either, right? Mid-sized small businesses, it's tough, but you have more ability.
But it's more manageable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's much more maneuverable.
So really that you ask what is my wish? And that's really my wish, is that somehow in mid-sized corporations, we can get a slight shift more into this non-fear-based way of doing things, more the courageous way, as I like to call it. And to me, the courageous way is really being more vulnerable, being more empathic. I mean, being more vulnerable isn't a sign of weakness. If I'm being more vulnerable, I'm actually saying, hey, it's okay if you attack me. I'm okay with it. Come on. So that's actually a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this vulnerability, hey, I don't know all the answers. Help me understand, give me advice. What's a better way to do this? And these kind of concepts, if we could bring that into leadership instead of the fear-based thing, hey, if you don't meet your KPIs, you're going to get fired. I think if we can start getting those kind of things, it doesn't have to be a huge change. I believe small change is far more effective than a huge change. And you see the so-called the oil spill effect, If there's an oil spillage, eventually it'll get to Australia.
Yep. The people you hire is very important. The people you employ is very important.
Sure. And I think it goes a step further, especially the people you promote.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you're promoting people on their acumen of work on the floor level, that doesn't guarantee that they're good leaders. So this whole idea of leadership. So exactly. And just like you say as well, the leadership development aspect is so important.
Yep. Well, if I was to take a last funny tone on this, like if everyone listened to all the advice that you gave and I gave, right, you and I'd be out of business. Fortunately.
I'd be happy to get out of business.
Well, yes. And I would love to just be in the business of pure joy and pure happiness. And how do we make that even more better?
Exactly.
Humans are humans, and that's okay. Right. And
I don't think we're going to be out of a job soon, David.
Okay. That'll be good. All right, my friend. Well, look, it's been 30 minutes. Flew by as usual, my friend.
Nice chatting with you once again.
Yeah, nice chatting with you. Well, thank you very much for making the time today, and enjoy your time in Spain. Hopefully, at some point it warms up and you get to spend some time outside.
Spring's coming.
Spring is coming. All right, my friend. Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation as well.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for listening in to the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. We'll see you next time. That's a wrap on this episode of the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. I'm David Fung, and my mission is to help leaders grow, lead with impact, and build thriving teams. If you found this valuable, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow leader. Until next time, keep leading with purpose.